Welcome to this hearing via Zoom of the Local Historic District Commission. Our purpose is to aid property owners in the town in preserving and protecting the distinctive characteristics and architecture of buildings and places significant in the history of Amherst. This meeting will be conducted via remote means. Members of the public who wish to access the meeting may do so via Zoom or by telephone, and a hyperlink to the hearing will be posted on the town's online calendar. We require one of 3 certificates, but tonight I think we're not doing any of those kinds of things. We're just talking about the possibility of adding another local historic district. And we have Chris Skelly here, who is an expert on this subject, to help us answer questions from the community. Walker, do you want to say some introductory words?
Sure. I mean, I haven't been working on this project as long as the rest of you. So this has been going on for some time, but this would be the 3rd local historic district in town, located in East Amherst, which has a sort of a cohesive historic history and architectural setting that I think Chris Skelly will go into in more detail. So Chris has been working for some time on researching the buildings and getting them inventoried. And we did send out a survey to all listed property owners in the village. Steve, did you have a comment?
Hello?
Or do you want me to finish?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm just raising my hand after you do finish. I'm sorry.
Okay, sure. Yeah, all I was gonna say is, well, why don't you talk? Because I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Steve, go ahead.
Well, first of all, Bruce is identified as me. I don't know how to change that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, that's okay, Steve, because I didn't get an invite to this meeting. I don't know why, Walker. I'm never getting invited to these meetings, but I'm not. So I'm using Steve's link, and that's why his name is on.
okay. I did email you one just now when Steve mentioned that you'd called him, so I'm not sure why that didn't go through.
Well, maybe it did, and he's got there before, but I should have received
Okay.
one an hour ahead, a day ahead, and a week ahead. That's what I do
Yeah,
with
I'm
all the
sorry,
other
I didn't.
committees. I mean,
I guess I forgot to include you on the list when I send it out to everybody else.
Yeah,
So I apologize.
please make sure that Bruce is on the list for the future.
Yes,
this is
yes.
2
this
questions.
has been
First of
happening a
all,
lot.
how many people are in the audience? I can't tell.
Looks like there are just 3.
Great.
3. Okay. I would just like to say a few things about this. This study was launched at the suggestion of the town manager, so it's not a case of overreach. And I also wanted to point out that this is also not a case of NIMBYism. There's none of the people on the commission are residents of the proposed district, so there's no hidden agendas. We're not trying to inhibit development, but to preserve, protect, and honor Amherst's unique historical and architectural heritage. Existing zoning, including ADUs by right, will still be in effect. This will only affect, our purview is only what is visible from a public way. Already compromised structures will not be held to higher standards, but with what currently exists. So I just wanted to put those disclaimers in, and then I'll turn it over to Chris, who has done all the research. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you. And before Chris begins, let's just note that this is actually the oldest part of town. It is the original part of Amherst. So it's a really important part of our heritage, and that's why we're so interested in this. Chris, thank you for coming, and thank you for your work so far on doing all the research behind these properties. Tell us what you have learned.
Okay, I'll do a short presentation here. Okay, Steve just gave some good background on local historic districts and how they work. I'll just add a few more things on a few slides regarding local historic districts. But we're here really to talk about East Amherst as a proposed local historic district. And I'm going to just start off by pointing out a key distinction is that East Amherst is actually a historic district already. So East Amherst is on the National Register of Historic Places. So it is a National Register district, basically a historic district currently. But the important thing is that it's not a local historic district. This is a subject of huge concern, confusion around the state, because lots of times people think that things are well protected in a National Register district, and they are not at all. So National Register districts, which is what East Amherst is right now, it's primarily an honorary designation by the National Park Service. So local historic districts, on the other hand, are established by local government. And with local historic districts, they are very effective at protecting historic resources. So projects that are typically included within a local historic district reviewed: alterations to buildings, alterations to structures, demolitions, additions, new buildings, new structures. But as Steve said, important thing to remember is that it is only what is visible from the public way. That's it. That's right in state law. That can only be what's visible from the public way. So there's two local historic districts in Amherst right now. Dickinson Local Historic District and the North Prospect Lincoln Sunset Local Historic District. The other areas of Amherst, such as East Amherst, have very little protection from alterations, demolitions, or incompatible development. And just to give an example of new construction that can happen in a local historic district, as I understand it, this is a building within the North Prospect Lincoln Sunset Local Historic District, where the building had reached a point where saving the building was not feasible. But by having a local historic district, the new construction met the expectations of the neighborhood. Without a local historic district here on McClellan Street, the replacement could have been a substantial concern for what was put up in its place.
Can I interject for one moment? Because this is our poster child. So this project came before the LHDC in October of 2024, and it was they got a certificate of appropriateness immediately. And the house was, has been up for several months. So, new construction is encouraged and does happen, and quickly. Okay, sorry, Chris.
Yep, no problem at all. So East Amherst is under consideration as a local historic district, Amherst as well. And as you heard already, it's because it really is where the original center, the original area of development within Amherst took place. And it still contains many early intact properties that tell that early history of Amherst and its growth and development over time. So lots and lots of significant properties here in East Amherst. Part of my responsibility as a consultant working on this project was to research the properties within the East Amherst area. The research on these properties was last done mostly around 40 years ago in the 1980s. So that information is 40 years old, out of date, and also in many cases, it really wasn't fully researched as well. So out of date information, but also, as you can see on the second page for this, the information on this property at 694 Main Street, it didn't have any additional information on the architectural significance or the historical significance. It was just left blank there. So my job has been to try to put together lots of information on each of these properties, really fill things out. And that's having better maps, having up-to-date photographs, having more detailed information about the architecture of the buildings, and then some information about the history of the building as well. So this is a typical example of the kinds of updates that were done with this project. So I start off by looking through the old deeds as much as I can. So I go back in time as much as is reasonable, because old deeds can be pretty challenging at times to review. But they are fascinating look into the history of these properties. It can be a little challenging to read through all of the handwritten deeds and all that, but you get some wonderful material to learn about the history of these properties from the deeds. And then as you come forward, you see how owners have changed, but sometimes there's wonderful information in these deeds as well, in terms of information about life estates, or some of the uses over time, easements across neighboring properties to a spring, or things like that. So really interesting to read all of the deeds. But they don't necessarily tell you all of the information about a property. So the deeds can tell you about who owned a property. But it's really interesting to think about these properties, also about all the other people that had associations with these properties. So we do that in a few different ways. The maps can provide some information. So there's two wonderful maps that were put together in the 1800s. Those will often have a name associated with them, or a building use, what was manufactured there, maybe something like that. So those can be really helpful. These can also be helpful for dates of construction, sometimes for properties that were built mid 1800s. These old maps can be really useful for that. Whereas the deeds are really just tracking who owned a property. It doesn't always tell you. In fact, it often doesn't tell you when a building was constructed. Another thing that I used a lot were directories, and these are kind of like phone books before there was such a thing as a phone. So it's kind of like listing of residents. So there's one from the 1860s. 1869, I think, is the earliest one that I'm aware of for Amherst. And it'll just have an alphabetical order, the names of people living in town. And it's not going to have street addresses, because they didn't have street addresses for the most part early on. But it's really interesting, because it'll tell you names, kind of get a sense of where they live, and then their occupations as well. So lots of wonderful things from the directories.
Chris,
Yes.
what
Yeah.
does the H stand for? Is that housed in the directory, which has charmingly got a transposition in it? So it's obvious that
Yeah, it's probably
we're
gonna be
not
like home.
we're not original to that. But they've got Griffin George Labourer, and then H Pleasant Street, and there's H Hitchcock Street, H Triangle Street. What's
Yeah,
the H for?
that's gonna be home. If you look down at the bottom, you
Okay.
see Hall AP, Meat and Produce Dealer,
Yeah.
BDS.
Yeah.
That means that person's boarding. He's a boarder
Oh, okay.
at Amherst House.
Yeah, some of them
Thank you.
say boards.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Sure. I did lots of research at Jones Library in special collections. They have lots of wonderful resource materials, including those directories, but also lots of newspaper clippings. So this was a great file folder on this property. Uh, uh, Smith House has some other names as well, but that's the one that's on Main Street. Really iconic, amazing property there. And interesting story on that, just in terms of that the building was in such poor condition. It was nearly demolished. So great to be able to have this wonderful special collections archive at the Jones Library to really see a lot of these articles well compiled. That one, and then this is another one out of special collections at Jones Library. This is the East Street School.
Mm.
And so you see all the children out there in front of their school.
Yeah, they all wore ties.
Yeah, yep. So significance of the East Amherst area, notably significance for its intact collection of buildings and landscapes that convey that early history and development of Amherst. They really reflect that commerce, occupations, industries, institutions took place during the 18th, 19th, as well as the early 20th centuries. And so that's really why why East Amherst was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1986, was a real recognition by the National Park Service. This area really is a special place. Several houses in the East Amherst remain from the early Amherst settlement. They include the Noah Dickinson house, the upper left there, and the Daniel Kellogg house. That dates from 1758. So very, very remarkably intact properties right there. And then some of the other properties dating from the 1800s or late 1800s as well on this slide. So you can really see the changes in some of the architectural styles that are taking place here as well. This was a really interesting one for me as well to research, to learn about the Baggs Tavern at 6 South Street. So it's also dating from really early time period. It was operated as a tavern, so it was a tavern operated by John Baggs during the first half of the 1800s, and then changed use. It was noted early on, even in the early 1900s, that it was a very significant property. And an owner at that time in the 1920s actually took ownership and began a restoration project to return the property to its more of a tavern appearance at that time. There was a museum there in the 1920s, an antique shop, and then it changed uses again. It was switched at some point to only residential use as apartments. And in 1977, there was a devastating fire at this property, causing extensive damage. Building sat vacant for several years, and this one as well looked like this building was going to be demolished.
Oh, good Lord.
But a new owner came forward and purchased the property and chose to restore the building. And so this newspaper clipping on the bottom here, which obviously the top one is before the restoration took place, just after that one's just after the fire. The one on the bottom, they're getting a preservation award from the Amherst Historical Commission, right around 1980. And this might be kind of an unassuming property right here, but very, very significant property. This is the Ebenezer Mattoon house. And this property, another early property dating from 1782. It was constructed just after the Revolutionary War by Ebenezer Mattoon, and it followed his return to Amherst after his extensive experience in the Revolutionary War. At the hub of East Amherst is the Second Congregational Church. And so from its earliest European settlement to the mid-19th century, East Amherst really was the institutional and residential hub of Amherst. So the primary early occupations here, farming of crops, hay, grain, apple. As you saw in that directory a little while ago, a lot of the residents, of course, were farmers. So that was true here. Industry came in a little bit later with cottage industries and things like that. But this building really stood at the center of Amherst as a Second Congregational Church. So the Second Congregational Church, this one followed one that was built in 1783, and then a new, larger Second Congregational Church was completed in 1839 to accommodate the many new arrivals that were coming to the village. They were really growing out of the previous building that had stood at this location. So obviously, not the Second Congregational Church in its use now. It's now the Jewish community of Amherst, but certainly a prominent focal point at the center of the East Amherst village at that time when East Amherst was really growing quickly and lots of people were coming in to live here and to work in the cottage industries, hat making, shoes, all kinds of things. Lots of housing construction was taking place around 1850, 1860, 70, things like around that area. So these properties here, all constructed during the middle of the 1800s as that area grew in prosperity. These are examples of the Greek Revival architecture, which really was very common at that time period. One of the interesting things about East Amherst is seeing the distinctions between the homes of the in this area. So these two properties are just so different in terms of I think they're right next to each other, but they're so different. So on the left, you see this. It tells the story of one of the wealthy families here in East Amherst, and on the right, you see the workers' housing to house the many people that were employed in manufacturing and the trades in East Amherst. East Amherst really is interesting as well for its a really impressive collection of brick buildings from the 1800s. Several examples here. These are really impressive properties. So we can definitely say that find buildings in East Amherst that have been altered over the decades. Some have been covered in asbestos siding or vinyl siding in some cases. Some have had porches that are enclosed, or porches that have been added on later. At the school, the East Street School, you can see where that front entrance was altered by enclosing the entryway and removing the stairs. But yet, even with all these alterations taking place, the buildings still very much tell that story of East Amherst and its growth and development as it relates to the overall town of Amherst. Okay, so that's my presentation here. I'm not sure what the agenda is. We're going to go right to questions. If anyone else wanted to, Steve or Walker or Nancy, is there anything else to cover before you jump in with some public comment?
Well, thank you, Chris. That was very nicely done. I think you've given us a taste of why we're so keen to support these buildings and keep them healthy buildings as part of our town. Steve, did you have a comment you wanted to make?
I just wanted to thank Chris. What an amazing presentation. And if you saw all the documentation, he handed in he's pretty much completed the study report. It's just phenomenal. And we really lucked out in getting Chris. And so I'm just so, even if this doesn't become an LHD, the documentation and the digitalization has just been phenomenal. And we're so grateful, Chris. Thank you so much.
Great. It was a fun project to work on.
We also want to thank the town of Amherst because we received some funds to help make this happen through the, what's the name? CPA funds.
Yeah.
And really appreciate that they understood the importance of all of these pre-Civil War buildings in our town. I think we should move to some questions. We do have 3 members of the community here, and we have members of the commission who may also have questions. So let's open it up to questions now. You can indicate you want to ask a question by raising your digital hand. Not a lot of questions.
Well, I don't have a question. I'd echo Steve's comments. Chris, thank you very much. I think this really consolidates what we've been thinking and talking about for quite a while. That's the reason I don't have any questions, is because A, it's a comprehensive presentation, and B, I think we've all taken the trouble to walk the neighborhood, and I remember it was quite hot, so it must have been at least a year ago, if not 2 years ago. So we've all, or everybody on that walk, saw all of these buildings. And Steve, at that point, you had, I think you brought a lot of stuff along. I know it was the older, as Chris was showing us, less complete stuff. So from that, I can see what you're saying, Nancy, the benefit of having a folio of completeness that transcends what Steve was showing us. What Steve brought with you. Thanks, Steve. It was very helpful. But what we have now apparently is so much better. But it's it does seem to make a very strong case. It's very deserving and seemingly quite appropriate. But I don't have a question other than to procedurally and so forth about what next steps might be. But I think that's not the question to be asking right now. I imagine I see Hetty's got a hand up, so maybe we go to public.
Yeah, let's let Hetty come into the room and ask her question.
All right, Hetty.
Hi, everybody. Chris, thank you so much for all your work on this. The Historical Commission did vote for CPA funds, I think, for this work, if I've got my facts straight. Just the fact that you've done all of the work again on the Form Bs is huge, because they were, in some cases pretty minimal. And I think it retrospectively, it made some of the decision making for areas that aren't in the local district in East Amherst a little bit more complicated than they should be now. We looked at some properties on Southeast Street, 3 little houses that fit right into the kinds of things you've been talking about. There's also a lot of little houses on College Street as you approach the intersection of Southeast Street and Route 9. And I think it was hard sometimes to sort of know, well, where is this, in terms of the boundaries. And I think beefing up all the information and the resources, the maps, the histories, the architectural significance, the kinds of varieties of buildings is really, really helpful in what is, as we've all been kind of saying, a very important part of the town. So thank you.
Would anybody, Hilda, I think you have your hand up now. Can you bring Hilda into the room, please?
I wasn't gonna talk, but since Hetty's there, I think we can.
Oop, sorry, that was my fault.
So I
Sorry,
said,
Hilda.
as long as Hetty's there, I think we can knock heads together and put up a really nice article for the Indy on this. And you probably, when you look through the deeds, you found mine and Louis' name on a lot of those properties, especially the 797 Main Street, what they call the old beehive, because of the all the children that lived there in the 19th century. But that was covered with siding, asphalt, looked like roofing. All of those houses were in terrible condition on Main Street. And I think we owned at least a half a dozen, turned that street around from what was a real slum about 40, 50 years ago. And lately we've been thinning what we own, and I've sold them off, but I'm glad that the people who bought them from us are maintaining them so that they are still looking quite presentable. But the interesting thing about the 797 Main, you didn't go inside, but it has beautiful federal woodwork for what was essentially an apartment house for the factory workers. I don't know what else to say about that, but I'm here tonight because I'm going to write it up and give it some hype.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who would like to speak? Walker.
Yeah, I just had a couple comments. We did send that survey out. It
Mhm.
went to everybody who had an address in the district, who owned a property in the district. And it was also part of the news posting on the town website. So I did get a couple responses from people who did not live in the district. We didn't get a huge amount of response, I think because a lot of property owners don't actually live in the district. But I'll note that the responses we did get were exactly evenly divided. 45% in favor, 45% opposed, 10% not sure. So that's something to consider, I guess. And yeah, I think that was my other point, was that the majority of the houses are owned by property owners who do not live in the district, which I think might impact the types of responses we got.
Yeah. Hilda?
Hilda?
I was gonna add one thing, that if you could put on your not so long range plans, North Amherst, the third precinct of Hadley has some very old houses up here, and at the same time that Sunset Lincoln came before town meeting for preservation, the two of them came up at the same time, and they chose to do the Lincoln Sunset because it was more threatened. But there is a National Historic District just around the common, but no, our old houses go pretty far north too. Mine is 1737 from the writing that's left on the walls. And it also was Baxter Eastman, Baxter being the trolley conductor that went across the trolley across the north. And I don't know whether you knew it or not, but the two barns, one that fell down and one that still remains on Coles Road, were trolley barns. And I was told that the reason they're at a funny angle and the exit and egress from Coles Road is at a funny angle is because that was the turning radius of the trolley cars.
Hmm.
So I put that on your list. We really are being threatened now with very heavy density proposals for up here, and I think that this third precinct of Hadley needs preservation too, if you want to put it on your calendar.
Thank you, Hilda. We will take note of that. Try to get this one through first. Are there other questions or comments that people want to make? Steve?
Well, I mean, procedurally, I think Walker, this is an informational session now in terms of the process, because Chris has pretty much done his part. He's completed every part of the study report except for one section, which I need to do. So what's next? Do we have, I know we have to go have a public hearing and then we have to go before the town council. How do we, should we address that at the next meeting, or, there's all these appendixes for the last study report that the town staff compiled, and I'm wondering who, if Nate did that or who's going to do that.
Yeah, I think I need to check with Nate and do a little research to determine what I need to be working on. And does it also get submitted to the state at some point before it gets approved by the town?
No,
Definitely.
the town, I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, it needs to go to the Massachusetts Historical Commission as the preliminary study report. So once you have a complete preliminary study report with all those sections together, it gets sent to Mass Historical Commission. They don't have an approval per se, but they are going to review it and they will get back to you with comments. But it's really an advisory process. Advisory, but it's still required under state law. So you have to send it to MHC. And an important thing there is that you have to wait 60 days from the time that complete study report is accepted, is determined complete. 60 days from the time you submit it. It might be a few days after that they find it complete, but it's gonna revert 60 days from the time that you submitted it, if it's complete. If you don't find it complete, then then it's gonna delay it longer.
So, Chris, can I interject? So we have to have we have to have our meeting first with input from the town. I mean, the study report goes to the state before it goes to the town council. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so
Final approval.
the steps are, you're gonna complete that study, that preliminary study report. Then you're gonna wait 60 days after MHC says it's complete, that it's been completed and accepted as complete by them. Then you can hold your public hearing. So you got
Okay.
a little bit of a wait time there. And that's
Okay,
in
so
state
the
law.
next,
You can't get around that one.
so the next step is we should complete the preliminary study report and then submit it to the state commission, is what Massachusetts Historical Commission. Okay,
Yep. And then you're gonna do your public hearing, and then it goes to town council after that.
okay, gotcha. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is, we have to get together with town staff because they have to prepare a bunch of appendix, like indexes of the property. I mean, you didn't, did you do that or?
Yeah, I can send you that. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I
All
have
right,
that.
then it's pretty much, I mean, it's amazing if you guys see what he did.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You did a great, you hit a home run. You
It's
just-
quite wonderful what you've done.
Yeah, yeah,
Really appreciate it.
yeah.
Bruce.
Yeah, so the methodology is oh, sorry.
Chris, that's fine. Just to be, just to understand here clearly, you said that the Mass Historic Commission reviews the preliminary study report, but they have an advisory role. In other
Yep.
words, they can't veto it. But it sounds like their role actually is to determine completeness. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can't go any further if that report's found incomplete. And so if you were to submit a study report and it didn't have a map, well, you got to have a map, obviously, in your study report. They're going to say it's incomplete and you can't go any further.
So
They say it's got if it's met all the sections that are there, then they are gonna review it. And if they have comments, they're going to get back to you. And those comments might be, let's say, for instance, they think the district should be bigger. They may give that suggestion to you locally that they think that the district should be a little bit larger based on some other significant resources outside the district. I'm not suggesting that here, but that was one thing that would come up sometimes. You're free to ignore that. You're free to ignore that because that part is just advisory.
yeah, okay. But they are they do have a formal role insofar as the declaration of completeness is their determination. And then
Yep.
we wait 60 days. So the second question is, what's the point of waiting 60 days? That's obviously some point, but I don't know what it would be, but I'm betting you do. Why wait 60 days? What happens?
Yep. So the idea is that you're really getting out notice to property owners and doing your public outreach to make sure that everyone's aware that a local historic district is proposed.
Okay.
It may not technically you may not really need 60 days to do that, but that's what the state law says since 1960.
So that's the point of it. And
Yep.
then after that, this commission submits a proposal to the council for the creation of the third district. And the council then goes through its process for considering and so forth. And I don't know, maybe the council refers to the Historic Commission, for example.
No, there was a vote. Last time I had to appear before the town was during town meeting.
Yep.
And I gave a 7-minute presentation and then the town meeting actually voted on it. And then that's when it was endorsed, but now that we have a town council, we'll go to them and they have to approve it by vote.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
just, for example, with the planning board, we've been submitting overlay or various proposals really, for changes to the zoning bylaw. Now, it's a decision of the town council to make whether they want to accept, whether they want to change the zoning bylaw. Their procedure has been that they then refer anything the planning board refers to the council gets referred back to A, the planning board, and B, to the community resources committee. And those committees each have public hearings, and then they then it goes back to the council for a decision. And I'm wondering whether you know, or whether any one of us knows, whether that similar process pertains to the creation of a local historic district.
Steve?
Yeah, last time I had to appear, we appeared before the planning board and actually got very contentious. And the planning board, to its credit, voted, it was a split decision. I think it was like 5-4. And the minority in favor of the LHD, and the minority felt so strongly, they actually issued a minority report, which is never, and I basically had to answer that. But basically the council can ignore the planning board. It's just a recommendation. That's what happened last time.
Okay.
But I forgot that we have to go before we last time we did go before the planning board.
Does anyone other than the council vote on this project?
It's my understanding that this wouldn't go before the CRC because it's not zoning, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I think there's separate regulations for zoning bylaw changes, but I can check with Nate.
Okay, Chris?
Yeah, Steve raised a good point that when you submit it to the state, that study report, the law also says you have to submit it to the planning board.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I think
you,
what we
you do that at the same time. You don't have to wait 60 days to submit it to the planning board.
Well, it's best to just do it at the same time so that your 60 days is gonna.
Oh, that was my question. So
Yeah.
you submit it to the planning, so this commission submits simultaneously and independently to both council and to the planning board. That's a
comes later.
question?
I-
It goes to planning board and Mass Historical Commission first,
And then the town council
then the town.
later.
after the public hearing. Yep. And requires a 2/3 majority vote too. Important thing to remember. It's just like zoning. It's a 2/3 majority.
2/3 from the
majority vote.
council.
2/3 majority vote is required. Yep. It's not Mass General Chapter 40A, the Zoning Act. So it does have a different process than some of the requirements in MGL 40A.
So does that mean that did I understand that there's a 2/3 majority required from the planning board and the historic,
Just the council.
just the
Just the
council?
council.
Just council. Yep.
So the planning board and the historic commission are simply recommendations if they choose to make one. Of course, it's nothing that probably says they have to. I mean, it would be
Exactly.
unusual not to, but it's okay. So that's a recommendation. And then it's a 2/3 majority of the council for the creation of the district.
Yes.
Steve?
Just so you know, as a matter of record, I think the vote at town meeting was 179-12 in favor. But get this, 3 of our present council members were among the people that opposed it.
That's what I'm worried about.
So we have, we're going to have some Pat Angelis, Mandy Jo Haneke, there's somebody else. I mean, it was amazing. They were the most adamant against it. So we're going to have some feedback. I mean, some pushback. Anyway, I think the next thing we should do is I would like to meet I don't know if Chris, he's done so much already. I hate to ask you again, but I think we need to meet with Nate because Nate was the point person for town staff on the LHD for Lincoln Sunset. And he knows and he prepared last time the report we submitted was literally was several hundred pages, including all the appendixes, the Form Bs, the maps, the photographs. I mean, it was a real volume and the town staff, provided a lot of it. So I think maybe we'll wait until the end of the summer since everyone's on vacation, but I'm going to write to Nate tomorrow and see if we can arrange for Chris and Walker and anyone from the commission that wants to come in and talk about what the next steps are. Does that make sense?
Is there one more public meeting that has to occur before all this happens?
I think what Chris said is that they don't, no, not yet. We can do the public meeting
After?
as we submit the study report to Mass Historical Commission. That's my understanding. But I don't know, Nate's been through this twice, so
Okay,
he's the guy that knows.
good. Well, I'm very appreciative of all the work that both Steve and Chris have done to make this happen. And I'm appreciative of the town manager for bringing this to our attention because it really does seem like an interesting part of the town. So Walker, can you start the next steps in action so we can get this to the Historic Commission?
Yep, do that.
Great, and to the planning board.
Yes.
And then we'll have to start calling town council members. Bruce.
I just thought for the people in the attendees list, it's nice for them to know who's present. And I think you said there were 3, but there are now 4. They all know that Hetty Startup and Hilda Greenbaum are there because they've both spoken, but there's another person, Jay Gilbert, and the 4th person who's just recently joined, who simply has Doug as the identification. But 4 people, that's who's here.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say?
I'm done. Put my hand down.
We have a motion to
Oh,
end.
Hilda, that's another comment.
Hilda,
Very worried about the whole political process because I'm not feeling very good about it right now. Things just seemed not, I don't want to go into it, but I'm worried.
Mhm.
And I wonder with election coming up, whether there might be people who want to talk about it. That's not part, as private people.
I think that Steve reporting that the overwhelming majority of town meetings supported it it supported the previous the creation of the 2nd district. Steve, I imagine you were citing.
I'm sorry?
You said that only 12% of the town meeting were.
No, 12 people. It was actually pretty amazing because it
12
was
people.
voted by acclamation, by a voice vote. And then somebody in the peanut gallery demanded, people go on the record. And then it turned out to be 179 members of town meeting in favor and only 12 opposed.
wow.
But as I mentioned, 3 of those 12 are 3 of our town council members who are opposed to historic preservation on, they think it's elitist. I think we have a good, Chris has done such a monumental job of documenting this. And I think the fact that this was instigated by the town manager and none of us are living there, so this is not an example of NIMBYism. I think we have a really good case and we just have to make it. I would like to do this, present it to this council and not the next council. So maybe I'm going to write to Nate tomorrow and see if he can get on it right away and not delay till the end of the summer so we can get to the council quicker.
I'll talk to my friend Pat DeAngelis. Pat's a reasonable person, at least in the
She's
many
one of the
years
most
I've known.
vociferous people. I mean, if you want to talk to her, but she's on record. I mean, I have all these quotes from her that she is ideologically opposed to historic preservation.
I can see how the line runs, how you've described it with Pat, because she has very passionate beliefs about certain things. And what I would be trying to do is to find out why she feels she has to tie her strong belief system, which I share in many respects, to historic preservation. And I'll see if I can help her untie that knot, because it doesn't seem that it doesn't seem to have a strong logic associated with it. She, of course, may convince me that I'm wrong, but
yeah. Anyway, hopefully she'll if she's opposed, she'll be outvoted.
See if I can't find out why Pat's such a strong. But the point I was making, though, is that there seems to be an overwhelming desire. We have the record that says that in the town there's an overwhelming desire for the proposition of a historic district, and the fact that we did a 50-50 split on the census of the
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 owners.
property owners, but that I don't think we should help people decouple that and explain why that should be decoupled from the general feeling
Yeah,
of
no,
the town. And
I'm
it's the
telling
feeling
you,
of the town that's important, I think.
we're gonna get so much pushback. It's not on the radar yet of the property owners, the absentee landlords. But once it is, we're gonna get huge feet. We got a lot of pushback on Lincoln Sunset from Barry Roberts and some of the landowners there. So they're not, I mean, what the good news is that with this ADU, ADU is by right now, so which I think that will mitigate some of their concerns in terms of development. And I also love that Joel's project on McClellan, that just shows that new construction is possible and that we're not opposed to development. We just want to honor what's there, So we'll just go next. We'll just see what happens next.
Yep. Okay.
I'd like to think that people have had more experience now with what it means to be a local historic district, and there may be less opposition than there was, because there'll be a better understanding.
Yeah. Well, I'm still prepared for folks who own properties who don't live here to be against it simply because that's an easy knee-jerk reaction.
Right.
They can say, I don't care. Why should I care? There's nothing in it for me. Bugger off. I don't want to talk about
Yeah.
it. But that's not who's the important constituency from our point of view.
It's the
We're
council.
here because the town cares.
Right.
And the town asked us to do this.
Yes.
Yeah, but as you know, when I submitted to CPA, we got like became a major kerfuffle because I actually used language from before, which was not the wisest use of language. And I got a lot of, pushback. And we basically they tried to stop the CPA grant, which is unheard of. Usually they just rubber stamp it. And because they're opposed to certain members of the council are opposed to this, they tried to prevent our grant from going forward. And I had to do a lot of behind the scenes arm twisting to get past that. So I'm expecting a battle. And I don't think that the town council is as representative as town meeting was myself. I mean, there's so many members of town council that run unopposed. But that's a different story. But we'll make our case. I think because of Chris, we have an extremely strong case. I am just blown away by what he's done.
Yes. Well, I guess I move to adjourn if that's what we've been waiting to do for quite a while.
I think Rita has something to say.
Oh, I
first.
just wanted to thank Chris and thank Steve and everybody for working so hard too. I think it'd be wonderful for our town.
Okay, so Bruce is moving to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Can I make a quick unrelated comment?
Yes.
The question. I think there are 3 members whose terms expired at the end of June, and I'm not sure if people got renewed or Karen did not want to renew her term. But there are 2 other people whose terms expired at the end of June. And I'm sure
I renewed, and I can't remember who else was.
I think I renewed.
okay.
Um,
They haven't updated the website yet, so I just wasn't
Yeah,
sure.
no, I'm on for another year.
You're on for another year anyway.
Yeah.
We do
I've exceeded my term by a year or 2, and I'd be happy to allow.
No, you
someone else
can't
to-
leave. You cannot leave.
You're
the only
on for
person that
life.
has no, you're like you're the only one that has the architectural expertise. You can't leave.
The point is to get someone you get someone else like me who does that type of thing.
I've interviewed at least 8 different architects, and
Okay,
because all of them are interested, and then they realize that they might alienate their client base, and then they back off. I've literally interviewed 8.
They need to be professionally dead.
Yeah, the people in the town that might hire them are the people that they're going to be policing, so they just don't want to do it.
But I don't care, and I haven't cared
Yeah,
for.
you're old. You're old,
Yeah.
and you don't care.
Well, old is okay. Old is good.
Old is good. don't go. You can't go, okay? Yeah, I won't let you go. Okay,
We have some people who are interested in being on the commission, and we will do some interviews, maybe at the end of this month. So we'll see if any of them are architects. I don't know that
well, Ben is applying and he's a landscape
the
architect.
landscape architect.
Yeah,
We'll see what he knows about building.
yeah.
Yeah, it's usually they don't know much, but on the other hand,
I think he
it's
said
the
he would-
outside of buildings that we're talking about mostly.
Yeah.
So then it's maybe I mean, there's a lot of things that go on inside of buildings that we don't care about. So, but maybe the landscape architects have got an eye that is in that maybe he could take my place.
Yeah, well,
Anyway.
you know about buildings, that it's been very helpful to have your opinion.
No
on.
one can take your place, Bruce.
Okay,
That is
we've got
definitely not
a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second,
Nicole,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes,
Bruce,
Yep.
great.
yes.
Yes, thank you again, Chris, and thank you, Walker, and
Yes.
thank you,
Thank
Steve.
you very
all
much,
three of
all
you.
of you.
Chris did everything. It's amazing. He did a
Well,
phenomenal job.
Thank you
I
so
agree
much.
that Chris has been amazing, but I also think
Beautiful
Steve,
job.
you've done a lot of work too.
Yes, you have, Steve.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'd agree with Steve's hard work too.
Bye-bye all.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right,
Bye.
bye, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.